Ms. Augustine, SEL. And since this is just a committee meeting, if some board members I know had prior obligations, if you need to sign off or excuse yourself, that's fine. We could stick around and do some additional Q&A. And this meeting was recorded, so it will be on RBTV as well as the PowerPoint will be available.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
So I'm here to talk a little bit about the social-emotional support that we will be providing students as we return to full in-person learning. I'll start by talking about Satchel, which will be new for this school year. Satchel is an SEL screening and assessment and intervention tool. We had an opportunity to have a demo during the spring, and we're very impressed with the company. And actually, I know that Oak Park River Forest is using this screener, and Pushpa Winbush, our school psychologist, talked to the school psych over there, and that's sort of what sparked our interest in the product. And again, we were impressed with the demo, we were impressed with the company. I gave you a little bit of information on the slide. And we will be using this as a Tier 1 intervention for all of our students, but primarily our incoming freshmen and our sophomores, because we really feel like our freshmen last year, we did not get an opportunity to know them. So getting as much information as we can about them seems pretty important. And so the next slide just gives you a little bit of a breakdown how it will be used as a Tier 1 and a Tier 2 and 3 screener. The targets are the social-emotional learning targets that were designed by Castle, and that's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. And all of our students will take a universal screener at the start of the year. Right now, it's kind of a work in progress where we will actually be administering this screener. Our teachers are great with allowing the social workers and the counselors going into the classroom, so I don't anticipate that this will be a problem, especially since it's all digital. They have Chromebooks or one-to-one, so it won't be very time-consuming. So all of our students will be taking this universal screener, which is quick, 20 questions. And then the other part, why this is, I think, really useful, and it's not just student data, the teachers will also be asked to provide some input on these students. Quick 5 questions, so, and this data will sync up and we'll be able to really identify who our Tier 2 and 3 students will be, which they will then go be taking a diagnostic assessment, which will be a little bit more in depth, 10 to 20 questions, and this will be quarterly. And these will help identify those students that we were mentioning during Dave's presentation, those check-in and check-out students, our most at-risk students, whether they are at risk, if they have some interventions with learning, or if they're in AP classes. These are really identifying who are our students that are at risk with social-emotional concerns. And then based on these assessment results, the tiered interventions will be recommended to the students, and then they will be implemented by the student services team, and we will be monitoring them quarterly. And the interventions are fluid, so as they improve, we move them out of the interventions, and as we identify more students that need interventions, they'll flow into those interventions.
So, Ms. Augustine, quick question. This
Yeah.
may be a very naive question.
Yeah.
The Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3 we're looking at for SEL interventions are not necessarily the same Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 for instructional interventions.
Correct.
Right. So we have almost like a Tier 1, 2, 3 and a Tier ABC. I just think for those kind of listening,
So if
your
you
student
think
might
of-
be identified in one group but not the other.
Right, so if you
Right.
think of this triangle with the base really being at the top, that would be Tier 1, and then if you put a line down it, you'll have academic and sort of
Yeah.
behavioral, social, emotional. Because you'll have students that need some interventions on the academic side, but don't necessarily need it behavioral or social, emotional. Then you'll have students that need some interventions on the social, emotional side, but don't need it
Right.
on the academic side. And then you'll have students that need both.
Right.
And that all falls under MTSS, though.
Correct.
Yeah,
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just wanted to be clear on that, so thank
Yeah.
you.
Then the next slide is, Kylie already mentioned that we have an additional school psych next year, thanks to ESSER funds. And our small team structure has been something that we've had in place for, at least 15 years. But I just wanted to point out that one way we'll utilize the new psych is we'll actually have 3 identified problem-solving teams that will meet weekly. And on that team will be 2 counselors, a social worker, and a psych, and then the deans participate. And the deans, the teams will use the data collected from Satchel and will also use attendance reports, grade reports, discipline referrals. And then these are the students that we will problem solve at that tier 1 level who really need some additional both academic and behavioral supports. Then I just wanted to share the topics that the freshmen will receive during PE classes. The social workers and psychs did this last year during second semester. All of the freshmen received SEL lessons during their wellness class, and we're going to continue to do that this year, starting with first semester. And then I just included some of the topics that will be discussed on a monthly basis.
So Beth, we're focusing on the 9th grade first with these lessons, correct? That's just the immediate,
Right, so.
trying to help them through with the, obviously, the anxiety and the, just getting back to school and being back in a school setting.
Right. So we actually have a number of students already identified for this year just based on sort of lack of engagement last year. So we can already target some of our current students. But yes, the incoming freshmen are who we really need to focus on. And again, the freshmen last year received the lessons during PE classes. And then this year we're just starting with first semester. But again, the Satchel assessment will be available for all grade levels. And then the social workers and psychs and the counselors will be implementing school-wide supports throughout the school year. Again, this is Tier 1 available for all students with a suicide prevention week, kindness week, teen dating, violence and healthy relationships, an inclusion week. Then we will, mental health awareness week will be in May. And then during finals week, we'll have some mindfulness, some de-stress activities. And then we also will have quarterly parent presentations that will be available for parents to find ways to support their students who might be struggling with some social emotional health concerns. And then we also have outside supports. NAMI has been fantastic with providing us with outside resources. They also are the organization that support our Text to Talk, which is a 24-hour, 7 days a week support line for just RB students. We have our own phone number. Students can text this number whenever they're in need, if they need someone to talk to. And then we receive a report from NAMI on a quarterly basis to see how often it's being utilized. Sarah Zinn will be providing us with support next year, and we already have a scheduled, and they are the domestic violence and abuse prevention shelter, and they will be providing a presentation to our juniors and seniors in February. Pillars continues to be an excellent resource. We have a counselor here 3 days a week, and that is a grant provided by the Riverside Township, provides us with this counselor. And she will be very instrumental. She's bilingual, and she's going to be instrumental with some of our parent support groups in providing presentations in both English and in Spanish. And then I think Kristen brought this up at a previous meeting. We will have RAP services through LADSI for our most at-risk students who are not identified as IEP students. And these would be our most vulnerable at-risk students who are we're not able to make connections with and are really needing more support at home. And it will be, we utilized the support this year and realized it would be an added bonus for next year.
And so, Beth, the wrap service is real quickly for those
Yeah.
watching. That's like having somebody reach out to the family at home, having somebody reach out at night, maybe on a weekend, even over summer break, right? Like,
Correct. The idea that the student would have a continuum of services throughout summer break, throughout winter break, and exactly if the wrap worker needed to go over in the evening to meet with the parent because the parent's working during the day, just where where we're not able to make the connections and we need someone who could be out of the building and doesn't really work within those sort of set school hours. And then lastly, I think Kylie added this slide, but the restorative justice team, and I think it was also on Dave's slide as well, presentation, that they will be doing monthly lessons to build community within the classroom, and this will probably be a great opportunity for the relationship building between students and teacher.
Does anybody following on Zoom have any questions for Beth in regards to the SEL supports we're planning to implement as we return to in-person learning in August?
One moment, just wait, I'm sorry.
Please understand, it's just curiosity, and it's probably already thought of in terms of an answer. But number one, let's see, the Satchel screener I think is great, and I'm glad. I don't know that much about it. I mean, other than I don't know if it's an acronym or whatever, but I'm glad to see that we're being proactive and trying to gather that data and find out who needs to be reached out to quickly. When it comes to those monthly community building lessons that were just spoken of, I'm just curious how teachers will be prepared for those to be executed. Is it by the teachers, I think I read? And is it something that is going to be given time for them to think about how to implement it, or is it something that they're reading off of? I guess I'm looking more on the buy-in aspect. And I'll say this 100%. Teachers have some ability to connect with some students and not with others, and you'll get that mix throughout the school year, throughout the day, throughout individual groups of students that you can connect with. So I'm trying to figure out how that's best going to be implemented. So, and I think this goes to what I've been asking questions on before, is this idea of how are we going to build community now that we're coming back into in person, recognizing all the struggles we've been through in the last year. I like that these activities are being put in. I just want to know what the preparation. And I'm saying this as a curiosity, but also hoping that there is a robust understanding from the teachers and how it'll be implemented.
So I'm sorry that I haven't been part of those conversations. Here comes Kylie to hurry.
So the way that these are set up, and this was a teacher-initiated initiative. So the restorative justice team of teachers came to us and said this is something that they really value and they feel strongly that they want to do. And we considered doing this for this year, but COVID. So the restorative justice team is going to plan the lessons themselves so that the teacher does not have an additional lesson that they need to plan. They're designed to be about 15 to 20 minutes on a rotating basis, so we're not ever taking 15 or 20 minutes from the same class period. And so the teachers will have those in advance. The restorative justice team has some summer curriculum hours that they're working on this summer. Those will go to teachers, and teachers will have the freedom then to kind of fill in with their personality, with their flair, the delivery of those lessons. Teachers who maybe don't feel as comfortable delivering a community building lesson on their own can seek support from all of the social workers, the school psychs, who are very ready and excited to support teachers in delivering these community building lessons, with the kind of understanding that teachers are learning to become more comfortable delivering that type of lesson and building those connections with kids without the additional support of a school psych or a social worker being present with them on the days when these lessons are delivered. And again, the purpose of the lesson, as it states in the slide, is really just about building connections with students and having a a non-academic lesson, a time to talk about goal setting or a time to talk about whatever is the subject of that lesson, and continually build those connections to hopefully, as you'd mentioned, Ryan, go beyond the goal of one trusted adult into maybe having some additional trusted adults as those community building lessons cycle through different periods of the day.
Good. I think we're going to see different comfort levels from each teacher and their willingness and ability to engage.
For sure. And that was something.
Outside of their content, and giving that freedom is what I would hope is let teachers, exploit what they're good at and,
Yes.
and things like that.
And that
So,
partnership was something that came out of some discussion with the instructional coaches about that very thing, right? That some teachers in some content areas, et cetera, would feel much more comfortable than others. And that's why our student services team is always at the ready and very happy to jump in and support all teachers.
Okay, thank you.
Other question, I think, Ms. Aruska?
Beth, thank you, and I'm sure you won't have an answer now, but one of the questions that are coming up, these are great resources. I'll be curious as we move forward, how you're going to be able to assess that we're actually meeting the need, that we're identifying the need and getting these resources to them, and if it's working. And so I'm sure that's going to come in the future.
Definitely. Pre and post testing for sure.